the truth of the matter from the stable of the Biafra Television, London. On this day, we are discussing on a topic that is Biafra restoration is not for restructuring of Nigerian political system. To deliberate, discuss, and educate the general public on what is going on in Nigeria as regards to Biafra restoration. Here, we always come to say it the way it is, because here is the truth of the matter. We are discussing and asking because there are publications whereby the Ohaneze Ndigo, the so-called socio-cultural organization, they have set their plan to meet with the recently released leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, in order to influence him to drop the agitation for the restoration of Biafra and thereby embrace the restructuring of the Nigerian political system. Here today, we are here to tell the general public and the world at large that Biafra restoration movement or process is never in any way for the restructuring of the Nigerian political system. Rather, Biafra restoration movement geared towards a total and uncompromised restoration of the sovereignty of the state of Biafra. That is to say that the reason for the agitation of restoration of Biafra is to restore the independent sovereignty of the Republic of Biafra. Today, I have my panelists here to contribute toward this particular topic, to educate the world and to give directions to indigenous people of Biafra in the diaspora and at home that the focus of this movement for the restoration of Biafra is solely for the restoration of Biafra. Today, I have with me Mazi James Osorobi, and also I have on my right Mazi Ifeanyi Nnadi. They are here to contribute their points on this particular issue, of discourse. Osorobi, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, was released a few days ago on health grounds after spending almost 2 years in detention. And as soon as he was released, we see some publications that the Ohaneze Ndigo were planning to go and meet with the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra in order to influence him to drop the quest and the agitation for the restoration of Biafra in order to embrace a restructured Nigeria. But we, the students of history, we could understand that there was an agreement way back in 1966 at Aburi, whereby the late Dim Chukwuemeka Odumegwu proposed for similar restructured Nigeria. And the Fulani Caliphates, they reneged on that agreement. And now today, in 2017, Ohaneze Ndigo are planning to go and start it all over again for a restructured Nigeria. What do you see in all these things happening?
Thank you, Mazi. You can understand that what the Ohaneze Igbo are trying to do is not ordinarily from the Igbo social-cultural organization, but is a tip-off of what Nigeria as a whole wants to do. That the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, was not arrested for agitating for the restructuring of Nigeria. Rather, he was arrested and detained unlawfully because he was agitating for the total freedom and total restoration of the sovereign state of Biafra. And now that he has been released, he has been granted bail, I don't see any reason why the Ohaneze social cultural group or organization will stoop so low by, publishing an article saying that they will, try one possible means or the other to make Mazi Nnamdi Kanu agree on restructuring of Nigeria. Let us take it back, way back 1966-67 to 70. What happened? The agreement held in Accra with Dim Odumegwu Ojukwu and Gowon and the rest of Nigerians who went for the same restructuring we are talking about today. Did it hold? Of course not. Before the advent of that very meeting, before 1960, Zik himself, who was one of the pillars of Nigeria today, Zik was the person who made Nigerians to know that there is something called one Nigeria. In those days, the agreement between the West, the North, and the East, which is Tafawa Balewa, Azikiwe, and Owolowo, the agreement they had to make sure that everything being equal, every tribe or race or every constituency or every state will have equal right, equal portion in the Nigerian state. Did it hold? No. After each of them, the Northerners will go and buy over the Westerners to change what has been agreed upon. You are talking about restructuring, yes, but can you tell me what has happened for the past 47 to 50 years? Now, this restructuring has been on board. Has it been touched? Because the Nigerian Constitution, which was written by one man, Abdul Salami Abubakar, the whole Nigeria saw the Constitution, and you cannot go and make a proper amendment to the Constitution, and you are talking about the restructuring of Nigeria. How can that work out? If ever what the Biafrans are agitating is for restructuring. Let's keep that aside. Is the Ohaneze Igbo trying to tell us that why millions of Biafrans died was just for the restructuring of Nigeria? That why the Muhammad Buhari administration killed over 10 to 15,000 Biafrans, agitators, was just for restructuring of Nigeria? That is not. And there is no how you can talk about restructuring without going on vote. Now you can see that the Nigerian Constitution has it that in everything you do, two-thirds majority must carry the vote. Let me ask you, the Ohaneze Igbo, how many of you are in the National Assembly? What is your quota in the National Assembly? Are you up to two-thirds majority to vote for the restructuring of Nigeria? if you go for this restructuring and the two-third majority comes from the north and the south and say there will be no restructuring, then you remain stagnant the way you have been for the past 100 years. I want to tell us here briefly that our goal, the goal of indigenous people of Biafra all over the world, is not for restructuring, rather for the proper liberation and restoration of the sovereign state of Biafra. Thank you, Mr. Mutri.
Thank you very much, Maze Osorobi, for your contribution, because what you are saying is this: if you go to section 9 of this same fraudulent constitution, because Nigerian constitution is fraudulent in the sense that it was a single man, Abdul Salami Abubakar, who was a military head of state. He constituted his friends and brothers, and they formulated this document, this fraudulent document, and they wrote on the preamble that we, the people of Nigeria, of which there was no Nigerian that participated in any conference in order to bring out this constitution. That is to tell you that it is a fraudulent constitution, and as fraudulent as it is, in section 9 of it, it prescribes and it provided for how the Federation of Nigeria will be restructured. We'll go into that later on. I come to you now, Mazi Nadi. We have been agitating, trying to draw the attention of the world, the international community, and the United Nations for them to implement their law, which centers on self-determination, on the right of indigenous people for self-determination. And in Nigeria, as it was concocted, the indigenous people do not have a say in what is going on. Why I say this is because in the year 1953, the British, they conducted a census whereby they favored the North. They gave the North 51% of the total population of the contraption called Nigeria, whereas 49% was given to the South. So for Ohaneze to come and they talk about restructuring Nigeria, we see it that they are ignorant because they don't know the prescriptions or the provisions of the Constitution. So, Martin Nadi, what do you tell Ohanese as regards these provisions that completely barred anybody from restructuring Nigeria?
If you look at the situation at hand, we shouldn't go by restructuring. One, we are not looking for restructuring. We are not asking for restructuring. We are asking for total freedom. Total freedom. Like I was saying before, we are practicing regional government even before now, which is even the main issue called, that is the main issue called restructuring. Restructuring is all about regional government. That is restructuring. Regional government and resource control. That is all about restructuring. Today, how can you restructure when the North, at the present situation, they are in charge of everything? They have more states, they have more local government, they have everything, more National Assembly representatives, more House of Representatives. The sharing of the federal allocation is being, in fact, two-thirds of the sharing goes to the North. Why 1/3 goes to both the Southeast and the Southwest? So, if you are in the position like the North, will you agree? Is that possible? Who will you be asking to remove his hand where he is eating and enjoying, and you expect that person to just accept it that way? It is an impossibility. And if they are trying to use a political solution, I'm even telling you that the condition that the solution might bring is going to be worse. Because the restructuring will bring another bad condition, because in that discussion they will not allow it to go smoothly. They will not allow a proper restructuring. They will come in with a different thing altogether that will not represent the word restructuring. Now, again is this. Why are we looking for restructuring? That's why I say we are not to demand for restructuring. We have to demand for what we are fitted in. For what that we are supposed to give, not restructuring. We don't need restructuring in Nigeria. We need freedom. We need Biafra. It is those who need our assistance, who need what we to get something from what we want. They are the people that will be begging us for restructuring, not we begging them. Because like I said, if you beg and you fail, it means hence you have started begging and you fail along the line. You have no other right to say that they should beg for you, beg to you, because you started the begging. The moment you started the begging, then you become the servant. I don't know why our people have failed to learn from the history. The same begging Azikiwe did during the time of independence. Instead of Azikiwe, who was championing the cause of independence, instead of him to stick and become the prime minister, he was begging the North. At the end of the day, prime minister was removed from him and he was only the ceremonial president. And that is where the whole problem started. Our people have made themselves so cheap. And I don't know why these people have refused to learn from the history. So, as we continue in this discussion, I would like us to look into more on issues surrounding this restructuring as the main issue there. Because when you talk about restructuring, a lot of things are involved. Amendment of constitution are involved. Acceptance, political resolution is involved. Other issues, resource control is involved. Even agreement on the how to carry on the central government is also involved. The security issue is involved. The religious aspect of it is involved. Where do you start in restructuring? Are you going to restructure the religion? If you restructure the economy, if you restructure the security, how do you restructure the religion? Are you going to restructure Sharia? So what I'm saying is, in effect, is this. We should not talk about restructuring. Our people, the Ohanese group, should not even mention it. It is not acceptable. They should go for Biafra, then, and watch. If others are interested, they should beg them for restructuring. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ohanese Igbo leaders. We know that you all are gathering today because the chiefs are down. Mazin Nnamdi Kanu has already done the work, and now the vultures are gathering in order to take advantage. We, the indigenous people of Biafra, we know that Ohanese has been moribund for decades now. They have been there collecting money from every successive government in that contraption called Nigeria, and they have never listened to the cries of the common man. So, we here on the Truth of Matter, we are telling you that the indigenous people of Biafra are agitating to be free from slavery. The indigenous people of Biafra are agitating for Biafra in order to be free from quota system. The indigenous people of Biafra are agitating for Biafra in order to be free from being judged in court under Sharia legal penal code when we are Christians, when we are not Muslims. So that is what Ohanese should be at the back of their mind, that going to meet the leader of indigenous people of Biafra with the main intent to persuade him to drop the agitation for the freedom of his people is unacceptable to us. And any Ohanese, any group or individuals trying to influence the indigenous people of Biafra to drop this honorable and revered quest for the restoration of Biafra is quite unacceptable. Now we are going on a break. When we come back, we will tell you more about this issue. Don't go away. Stay with us. Thank you.
The birds on the air, they have their freedom. The fishes in the rivers, they have their freedom. All nations in the world.
Welcome back to the truth of the matter on the stable of Biafra Television London. On this second segment, we are still discussing on the topic, which is Biafra restoration quest is never for restructuring of Nigeria's political system. We have been discussing this on from the first segment. Eminent Biafrans has made their contributions, and they have reminded Ohaneze Ndigbo that prior to the independence of Nigeria, there was a political system in Nigeria which is regionalism, whereby every regions were allowed to develop on her own pace by utilizing the resources that is found within their domain. And in 1966, after the Nzobuku, Aguiyi took over the government and decided to implement a policy that will unite the whole federation together. And the Hausa Fulani, they were very, very angry about it, and it led to killing of Aguiyi, and the rest is history. So, what Biafrans are telling the world, and Ohaneze in particular, is that Ohaneze should know that the freedom of Biafra is more important and divine than any form of restructuring. You can recall that Ohaneze Ndigbo, they are now coming out of their shells because they have noticed that their empire of the six, they are empire where they use the blood of the indigenous people of Biafra killed, they use it to collect money. You could remember there have been riots in the north whereby they kill the people, the indigenous people of Biafra residing in those areas. And Ohaneze, that should have stood as the father of the nation, they always go from the back to collect money and they make sure that the corpses of those killed in the north are not returned to Biafra land, so that there will be no form of reprisal attacks. So these people called Ohaneze Ndigbo, they have been subjugating the people of Biafra. They have been working with the enemies, with those that came to kill the people of Biafra and take over their resources. Today, they have seen that the chiefs are down, that the route to the restoration of Biafra is very, very clear. Hence, they have come in order to make sure that they continue to dine, to eat, to enjoy themselves with their families from the blood of our people that are killed. Mazi Nadi, what advice do you have to give to Ohaneze Ndigbo, owing to the fact that you know what happened during the First Republic?
My advice will come in different or in some conditional approach. Let me start by reminding Ohaneze one thing about this whole issue. That for them to get Nigeria restructured, it has to pass through the National Assembly, of which they don't have the 2/3 majority. That is number one. It also have to pass through amendment of the so-called fraud 1999 constitution that the Nigerian system is currently using. That is number two. Then number three, they also have to remember that the present number of states as in regards to the eastern region, western region, and northern region are not the same. The north has 19 states, while the rest of the south, east, and south have only but 11 states, which are the makeup of Biafra, because south, east, and south are the people that are known as the old eastern region, and they are only about 11 states. They should look at it from this perspective. What happened that in 1963, or from 1960 down to 66, why was it then that there was a balanced regional government? All of a sudden, after the war and the subsequent government, there was a difference between now to be called 11 states as against 19 states, because the old eastern region now have 11 states, while the old northern region now have 19 states. How can you come about that discussion? A very big gap of about 8 states different. Now, how can Ohaneze be able to convince the North to drop the benefit that are coming from these extra 8 states that they have already grounded in the system? How can they convince the North to abandon that kind of benefit that is coming from the 8th state? I'm talking about the resources, the benefit from the resources of the entire federation. How can they convince the North to abandon those benefits and now embrace an equal opportunity for Nigeria? Because for Nigeria to progress, there must be equity and justice. Whereby there is no equity and justice, nothing can work in that restructuring of a thing. Now, Ohaneze also should also look into the political and religious belief and mindset of between the North, the West, and the East. For 40-something years, the North and the West has ganged up and has been subjugating the Southeast and South-East. Do they think that it is going to stop? It will never stop. Because Nigeria have been rooted in that type of arrangement. So Ohaneze should also look into the religious aspect of it, the whole situation. What about Sharia? What about Sharia? If you restructure Nigeria, what will be the central government religious base? There are a lot of things people have not seen. If you look back, Ohaneze should also look back to what happened to the last event at the Constitutional Conference set up by the former president, President Jonathan. Before the end of that conference, problems have started arising. The North started rejecting the report of the conference. And up to today, the North have refused even to discuss the report of that particular conference. So if the report of that particular conference, which is not even fair to the South, which is not even fair to the Southeast or South, which is even more beneficial even up to now to the North. The North is still more beneficial in that report. But they are still not accepting it. They are still not even wanting it to be discussed at all. Then, how come when they now bring an issue that will be more fairer or more justified by the entire federation, or that will be more balanced? So these people are talking and are trying to embark on a journey of no return, because the place they are heading to, if they eventually try to push this issue forward, it is going to cause a lot of issues that are unseen today. And I want to urge Ohaneze to be very, very careful, because we, the current youth of the Eastern region, the old Eastern region, which are Biafrans, we are not interested in restructuring. We are interested in freedom. Freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of worship, freedom of even a political freedom, economic freedom. We cannot be made to rely on a certain group of people to survive when God has provided for us all that is needed for us to survive as a people. The Ohanese should be very, very careful and watch their steps, because if they fail to watch their steps, we the youth will watch their steps for them. And when we watch their steps for them, it will become more inevitable. A lot of things will happen which I will not mention here. They should be very, very careful. We are warning Ohanese people to be very, very careful in how they handle the future of the new generation. We are not them. We didn't fight the war. We don't know how many that we are killed, or how many they killed, or they were not killed. All we are interested in that from the time we were born till today, which is 40-something years down the lane, Nigeria has been suppressing us. Even if our people are not innocent to Nigeria, we are innocent. And Nigeria have no reason to treat us the way they are treating us, and we have endured enough, and for something years is enough for us to react. Today we are going to react appropriately. If they fail to do the right thing, then we will do the right thing for them. And by that time, nobody should not blame the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much
for a very good contribution. Ohanese Ndigbo and the Biafrans at large must understand at this point that the quest for restoration of Biafra can never be substituted by anything under any guise at all, because we already know the antecedents of this so-called Ohanese Ndigbo, because they have lost relevance, because they have, since they were created decades ago, they do not even have a website. So what they have been doing has been political jobbing, trying to collect some crumbs from every successive government of the day. So what we are telling them is that we want Biafra. The sovereignty of Biafra is why we are here today talking about the Biafra restoration. I come to you now, Mazi Osorobi. We have analyzed everything, we have discussed, we have told our people the most important aspect of this issue, which centers mostly on the fraudulent constitution, which do not even allow for a restructured Nigeria. What is your point on this aspect?
Okay, I want to tell our people, and Ohanese in particular, that before you talk about restructuring, you must take it back, way back 1960, before the Civil War, before the genocide in 1967. What caused the war was that Nigeria was practicing regional government, which the North saw that if we keep practicing regional government, it is not favorable to them. It will never be favorable to them. Therefore, they opposed it. I have mentioned Aburi here before, and I'm going to mention Aburi again and again. They went to Aburi. The same thing happened. They said regional government should be practiced. And upon the return of General Gowon and Odumegwu Ojukwu, the regional governor of the East, General Gowon overturned everything and denied the agreement based on the regional government reached, and that brought about the war, which they killed only Biafrans. Over 3.5 million died, and 2 million died in Owerri, which Muhammad Buhari led the mission of slaughtering both women, kids, and everybody. That is coming up again. And before that, they said in 1999 that the constitution was what? Was amended. Who drafted the constitution and who made the amendment? One man, Abdul Salami Abubakar. When you go to the section 9 of that constitution, everything is spelled out. The way you will talk about restructuring. There's no how restructuring will work in that contraption, Nigeria. Therefore, my advice to the Ohanese and Igbo, my advice to all Biafrans, my advice to the Oduduwas, my advice to the Arewas is nothing but to your tent, O Biafra, to your tent, O Oduduwa, to your tent, O Arewa. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Mazio Sarobi. That is to tell you that most of these people within this Ohanese forum, they don't even know what is obtainable in the constitution. As Mazi Osorobi has rightly pointed out, Ohanese should go and look for the Nigerian 1999 constitution and go to section 9 to see that there is no how Ohanese can achieve restructuring. Because in 1953, as we have said on this platform, that the census of Nigeria was conducted by the British, and they gave 51% to the north and gave 49% to the south. And this section 9 of this constitution prescribed for a 2/3 majority, of which before you have a 2/3 majority to restructure Nigeria to the benefit of the Biafran, that means you must have 67% of the total population of Nigeria. And as it stands, the North, they do not subscribe to restructuring. That is to tell you that they will never vote for it. That is to tell you that there is no how the indigenous people of Biafra will ever get the required constitutional numbers to make for a restructuring. On this point, we are drawing the curtain on today's edition of this, and we urge you to keep a date with us this same time on this same station of the Biafra television. Thank you.
Biafra freedom, freedom is what we need now. Freedom, freedom is what we want now. Biafra freedom, freedom is what we need now. Freedom, freedom is what we want now. Call it the United Nations to set my people free. Call it the League of the Nations to set Biafra free. Lord no. Calling the African Union, talk about my freedom. I call in the four corners of this world to set Biafra free. Lord, for so long now.